everyone.
First of all, I must say I'm very happy to be here in my hometown for the first time, to have the chance to talk about what I do a few thousand kilometers away. Thank you, Arlindo, and the organization for giving us the chance to be here today and present this project. This is my colleague Diogo from Oceanario de Lisboa.
Hi, everyone. I'm Diogo. I'm a biologist. I'm the responsible for the educational program of the Oceanario de Lisboa. And we are here to present you the Manta conservation experience by Oceanario de Lisboa. First, we would like to show you a video about the project, a video made by Nunsad. Thank you, Nunu, for your amazing images. So let's show the video.
In the middle of the Atlantic Ocean lies an ancient island belonging to an archipelago which many link to the legend of Atlantis. Here, manta rays gather in their dozens every year. Where do they come from? Where do they go to? Do the same individuals return every year? Answering these questions and many more is key to protecting the manta rays surrounding the island of Santa Maria in the Azores. For the first time, it is possible for you to join the research team leading this conservation project for 1 week. Discover this unique island and its fantastic underwater world. Learn about manta rays, dive and photograph them, meet scientists, and contribute to manta conservation. Participate in a once-in-a-lifetime experience, an experience with a purpose. Don't miss it.
So this is the project, a project from Oceanario Lisboa. Oceanario is the biggest aquarium in Portugal that opened in 1998. And our mission is promote knowledge about the ocean and raise awareness for its conservation, for its protection. Basically, Oceanario have 3 different core activities at the aquarium, of course, education and conservation. In aquarium, we received more than 25 million visitors since the beginning. Most of them are not divers like you, so for them it's a unique opportunity to see the marine species, to connect with the ocean, to know more about the ocean, and to bond with the ocean. In educational department, we have several activities from kindergarten to high schools, at the Oceanario, outreach programs at schools, and we already have more than 1 million participants in our educational programs, and of course, conservation. Since the beginning, Oceanario have supported more than 30 conservation projects around the world, not only in Portugal, but even in Brazil, Japan, Africa. And one of them is Manta catalogosaurus, that Anna is the star. So please, Anna, go on.
Obrigada, Diogo. So it actually means quite a lot to have the support of Oceanario de Lisboa, because it was actually there that I had the chance for the first time to see a manta ray and learn what a manta ray was. So it's been incredible to have the chance to work with them. So Manta catalogosaurus is a conservation project, and I first arrived in the Azores in 2011 to start my master's degree, and I had just came back from Mozambique from a manta ray conservation project. And after I arrived in the Azores, I started learning that there was groups of mobularies that were gathering in the Azores in the summer every year in very specific places. And basically, this species was unknown, not unknown to science, but we knew very, very little about it. So this led me to found this project in 2012, because the Azores is one of the very few places in the world where we have big groups of a very particular species that gather every summer. And for us researchers, a lot of the times it's logistically and financially impossible to be in the water every day with these animals. So the best we could do is try to involve the diving community and the dive operators to help collect data and study these animals. So that was the main idea behind the project. And the goal was to learn more about the species that we would have in the Azores and in this particular part of the Atlantic, because it's a region we knew very, very little about them. So even though these are very charismatic species, divers go all over the world to dive with them, very big animals, but until a very few years ago, we know very little about them, and they were already being fished in big numbers for their gills. So we needed to put all the effort we could, learning more about them, so we could then work towards their conservation. So the objective of the project was to understand the importance of these very specific places we have in the Azores and why these animals go there. Comprehend what are the environmental drivers that are behind their presence and influence their presence in the Azores. Study the movements not only between different aggregation sites in the Azores, but also between the Azores and other regions in the Atlantic. Develop education initiatives, promote conservation and sustainable tourism practices, provide reliable information on these species, so then we could help inform management and conservation efforts, not only locally, but also globally. And expand the use of photo ID to study this particular species, which is the sicklefin devil ray. But I'll go a bit further into that later. So what have we achieved until now? This was the first database, photo ID database for sicklefin devil rays in the world. So no one was doing this before, and this is mainly because the Azores have these very particular spaces where we know that these animals are there with a chance of 99% of probability of success of seeing them. And it was also the first photo ID database for mobilid species in Portugal. We were able for the first time to confirm how many species and which species we did have in the Azores, or do have. We established a wide network of collaboration with dive operators, whale watching companies, and divers. We have actively involved the community, divers and non-divers, in the region. We had the chance to create a genetic sample bank for these species as well, with collaborations in other parts of the world. And at this moment, we have active collaborations to try and replicate this project in other places where these animals are seen. So I had the chance to talk with some of you yesterday about the differences between the species. These are the three species we have. Whoops. Okay, the three species we have in the Azores. So we have the first one on top, the Oceanic Manta Ray. Most of you probably have already had the chance to dive with these guys. They're the biggest rays of all. They can reach 6 meters from wingtip to wingtip, so it's quite impressive. We have then the sicklefin devil ray, which is a more olive green brown color, and the spine-tailed devil ray. There's something particular about these animals is in their bellies they have patterns. So in the case of the manta rays, they have spot patterns, and in the case of the sicklefin devil ray is more a contour between a white and the gray area. And these patterns are unique to each individual. So a bit like our fingerprints, we can ID these animals with photographs of their bellies. And in the Azores, the sicklefin devil ray is the star of the show. So until very recently, this was one of the least known species of this family. So you have an idea, in 2012, they were listed as data deficient under the IUCN Red List of Threatened Species. And this means basically we don't have even enough information to be able to understand what's their conservation status. Nowadays, they're listed as endangered. These are highly migratory individuals, truly oceanic. They have a circumglobal distribution, and they have this particularity of forming these aggregations in very specific seamounts in the Azores. So the Azores is the most remote archipelago in the North Atlantic, and we're sitting right on top of the Mid-Atlantic ridge at an area of a junction of 3 tectonic plates. And we have a lot of seamounts around the region of the Azores. And some of them are what we call shallow seamounts, which means that the summit is at a depth below 100 meters. And some of them even break the surface. So this means that some of them are diveable, and that had created the chance of a diving industry directed to diving with these animals. And these aggregations are predictable. So we know that these animals between June and October are at the seamounts in big groups. And like I said, the rate of success is very high to see them. So manta rays have those spot patterns that I showed before. And there was already many projects working with photo ID to study these animals. But since there are not many chances to have encounters with the sicklefin devil ray, and that is the only devil ray species to actually have a pattern. So there's 2 manta ray species, lots of projects using photo ID to study them, and then this species is the only devil ray species that has a pattern. So having them aggregating in these particular species right in our backyard was a perfect opportunity to study them. And this is where divers come in. So the idea was divers and dive operators would be persons to be in the water every day during that period with these animals. And for us researchers, that most of the time is impossible. So citizen science is basically the collection of information by non-scientists. And in the last few years, with advances in technology and accessibility to cameras and phones, apps, the engagement of people with science has been growing exponentially. So the idea behind this project was always to use the power of the diving community and involve them directly on the study of these animals. So the photo ID is a non-invasive technique. It's basically the use of photos of patterns or marks in the animals to identify them. And these can help us have information on population, sex ratio, longevity of the animals, because once we photograph the same animal several times, we are able to track movements, know how many years they live, how often they're pregnant, and this is very valuable information that we didn't have for this species. So a perfect photo ID is something like this. You get the whole pattern, and this is a Nunu's photo. And you can actually sex the animal as well, so know if it's a female or a male. And this will be what we look for. It's not always very easy, but this is the perfect ID. Of course, we also need more information. We need a date where when the animal was seen, and also the site, so we can then keep a track of the sightings of these animals. Any diver and dive operator can log into the website of the project, fill in a Google form, give us information on their dive, and also upload their photos and videos that will then be processed by me and a team of volunteers. We go through every photograph and we compare that with our database to then be able to understand if it's a new individual or a resite. I'm not going to get into the very sciencey part, but so you have an idea, the project is 9 years old and we have 265 ID'd individuals. 234 of those are sicklefin devil rays and 31 are oceanic manta rays. These might not seem like a lot, but I have to say the project has taken a lot of stubbornness from my part. It took a lot of time, you know, for people to take it seriously, to receive enough images to be able to create this database. And we are now getting results. So one of the main questions behind the project that I wanted to answer was, is it the same individuals that come every year? And now we do know that the same individuals come every year, sometimes with 9 years apart. So now we're getting a lot of information, but after quite a long time. So I'm gonna pass the word to Diogo.
So having this experience from Manta Catalogosaurs and the know-how. Can I? Yeah. So having this experience of Manta Catalogosaurs and know-how of Anna, and in order to continue support conservation after a pandemic and to ensure the financial sustainability of conservation projects, this year Oceanario and Anna created the Manta Conservation Experience. So we already did two pilot experience this year. And in this experience, during a week, you can dive twice a day with manta and devil rays in Azores around Santa Maria. But why is this project different from other tourism projects where you can dive with mantas? It's because you will be really engaged in a scientific project, in the conservation project, and you will really support conservation. You will dive every day at least. You will have underwater photography workshops and other workshops. You will collect data with the project leader, speak with her, spend a week with her, and your data will be used to update the database of Manta Catalogosaurs. But principally, your money will be invested in conservation, in projects like Manta Catalogosaurs. So that is why this project is different from others. And you divers can really contribute in this project, right, Ana? Vais tentar com isso?
Okay, so you might be thinking, and like Diogo said, why is this experience different from others? Our idea is to give divers the chance to participate in an informed and responsible dive operation. And this can set the ground for more responsible dive practices in the region. So if we show people the importance of responsible practices, the importance of data collection, and what can be the contribute to the conservation of these animals, we will be able to have more involved stakeholders and set the ground for best practices in the region. I see this as a win-win situation. So for us, researchers, we are making our data collection bigger, so we are able to expand it, but also the divers that participate have the chance to learn more about these animals. They have an engaging experience, enriching experience, and then they see the contribution effectively on the project and on learning more about these animals. So they go through the process of collecting the images, analyzing them, and seeing the results. And I think that's very important because more and more, I think people care about conservation if they have some kind of emotional connection with the subject. And in this case, these animals are very curious towards divers, so it's a very special encounter and people really come out of the water with more curiosity and with more engagement and more aware of the need to conserve these animals. So the financial side of this will provide logistics necessary to do this work, which sometimes for us researchers is not very easy. It provides human resources that are necessary to make the whole process of collecting data, analyzing data, and getting results quicker. And this will allow the project to have a full-time dedicated team, but also to keep a long-term study on these particular ecosystems and these particular species. So our main goals with this experience are to scale up the amount of data we are collecting, to augment our database, because with this type of project, the more images we have, the more identified individuals we have, the more easy it will be to learn more about them, but also to recite more individuals and learn more about their movements. We are contributing to the wider knowledge of these species. So we're not only contributing to learn about the Azores, but about these species worldwide, because this is one of the only places where we see them and have the opportunity to study them. Another thing that will be very important for us to work towards their conservation is to understand what is the importance of these seamounts and why are they there. That's the million-dollar question. Don't ask me that because I don't know the answer to it. We want to further engage the local community. So another idea behind this project is to involve as much of the community, the local community, as we can. And this is not only divers, it's just general public that we want to involve in this experience and boost economy in this island as well. So raise awareness about the importance of the conservation and also the economic importance of this type of diving for the region. Reproduce the project in other potential important sites for the species. And this is very important because there are other places like the Canary Islands, Cape Verde, Brazil, where these animals are also seen. It's not as easy to find them as it is in the Azores, but by having this project now working and having results here, it has allowed us to create collaborations with other parts in the world. So at the moment, for example, in the Canary Islands, we are launching a project that does exactly the same thing that we are doing in the Azores. So this will lead to a self-sustainable conservation project and also to provide information to the main authorities to be able to put in place adequate conservation measures. So the main goal will always be to help the conservation of these animals. Thank you for your attention. Any questions, please feel free to find us around today. And if you want to learn more, just visit our Oceanarium website or the project's website. Thank you very much. Before I go, I just want to steal 2 minutes because I actually have two people here that were the first people to believe in this project and also to contribute with photos. And one of them is Nuno. Thank you, Nuno. And Laura. And I just wanted to give you both special thanks. Thank you.
Thank you.